In the past handful of videos, I have talked a lot about the DJI LiDAR rangefinder, and there's no denying, it's awesome. But between the LiDAR and the RS3 Pro gimbal, it's gonna run you about $2,000 if you wanna get autofocus on your Blackmagic cinema camera. Well, what if I told you that I just found a way to do it for around 10 bucks?
As long as you have at least a relatively newer iPhone.
This video is sponsored by 𝗬𝗪𝗏, more on them in just a minute.
While researching and playing around with all these different LiDAR technologies, I really just stumbled upon this app called Focus Puller and kind of just got hooked because it really is intended for Blackmagic cameras. A lot of you are Blackmagic owners out there, so I thought you'd be interested in seeing what this was all about. And of course, the app will be linked down in the description below. It's totally free to download, and I'll just throw it out there. I have no affiliation with this app. I ended up buying it with my own money. So first of all, what is this app? It essentially does two things. One, it will connect to your Blackmagic camera via Bluetooth, so like the pocket cameras. And then you have to have a lens that has electronic focus to it. And so let's just jump in and see what it looks like. I'm gonna open the app, and also I'm going to turn on my camera. Now, if you have no idea where to go in your Blackmagic camera to pair something, you just want to go to the menu and then setup. Second to last page on setup, you can turn Bluetooth on, and then in the app, you can connect to it. It will basically give you a code on your Blackmagic screen to type in, blah, 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 and then you just set it to auto connect. So as I just turned both of these things on, it's now auto connect. Yay. So the first step is just manual focus at the top. So if we go to that, then this basically is just like a mini focus wheel. You can see that the focus is indeed changing. So I'm close and now I'm far and I see my nice focus peaking. So this is a really cool, like super low budget way to focus pull. Maybe someone's holding this on a Steadicam or a gimbal, or maybe it's like attached on a top-down shot and you can't really reach it to pull focus. As long as you're within Bluetooth range, which isn't that far, but again, we're low budget here, you got a pretty decent focus pull. I mean, you can be pretty smooth. It's not super jittery. And the cool thing is you can even add markers. So I can set my background focus to that. I can set my minimum focus and maybe even somewhere in the middle, like on that camera, add a bunch of markers. And then if you want to quickly jump to it, you just kind of hit the little triangle to the right of the marker, and then it will just quickly jump to that. Now you can't change how fast it goes from one marker to the next. So it basically is kind of an instant focus. You're not going to be able to set like a slow rack or anything. So it just kind of quickly jumps from one to the other. So that's kind of the only downside. And then if you want to remove a marker, you simply just swipe it away. Simple as that. Like, I love things that are stupid simple to connect, and it's functional, it works.
There's no debate, music is one of the most important elements to any video. And 𝗬𝗪𝗏 not only has a vast music video and sound effects library, the curated playlists are updated often and broken down into different categories that make finding what you need incredibly fast and efficient. Every song comes with multiple different versions, and depending on the plan you have, you can even choose to download stems so you can customize it to your exact needs. Most of you know of Frame.io and how awesome they are for video collaboration. 𝗬𝗪𝗏 is directly integrated, and you can save music right into a 𝗬𝗪𝗏 folder directly in Frame.io for your entire team to access. Now, of course, you can authorize all of your social channels so that you don't even have to worry about copyright issues. If you're a Premiere Pro editor, they have a direct extension that you can install and makes it super easy to drag and drop the music and sound effects you want right into your timeline without ever having to leave your editing program. And even though plans start at just $10 a month, depending on the package that you need, you can save even more by using my promo code in the description for 15% off. And again, thanks to 𝗬𝗪𝗏 for sponsoring today's video.
But now let's get into the main attraction, because I know that I started off with a big promise saying, hey, let me save you the $2,000 from buying this LiDAR system and gimbal, to how can we still get autofocus on this camera just using your phone. So essentially you can use the LiDAR data from the phone and then it Bluetooths that data to your camera. Similar to the LiDAR setup on the gimbal, you have to calibrate the lens to the system here, and you kind of have to rig it to the camera in some way. And so again, this is a little budget, y'all, so this is gonna look kind of janky in a second. I just took this good old Condor Blue quick release, which I freaking love these things, and a magic arm and a phone clamp, and I did this a couple different ways. At first I didn't have the magic arm, and I just put the phone holder on top of the camera, and that was definitely the most secure, but we ran into one problem, which we'll talk about in a second. So I'm gonna go to LiDAR Focus Viewer. This is definitely still gonna move because this magic arm is super cheap and super old, but here's our little setup going. All right, so in the bottom left-hand corner of this app, you can see that it is calculating the distance of wherever this yellow dot is in the center. So if I go on this back wall, you can see it's around 4.5 meters away. If I go close, it's 0.5 meter. You'll notice that I have calibration 20, whereas on the DJI gimbal, you had to have 2 calibration points. It had you focus on a subject and then go to 1 meter, basically get focus on the camera, and then move to 4 meters, get focus on the camera, and then it was calibrated. Here you want to do 15 calibrations, and it basically tells you to start far back, around 4 or 5 meters, I think, every foot, couple feet. And then what you're going to use is this slider, and again, it's connected to your camera, and so I'm going to use this slider until the thing is in focus, and then I'm going to hit add calibration. And you'll notice you can just add a whole bunch of calibrations to the lens, but you don't need to after you get those initial 15. Now, once you go through all the calibration steps, you are going to turn on and basically start the autofocus. And at the top right, you're going to say use suggested, and that dot is going to turn green. And now on my Blackmagic, I'm not touching anything, but if we cut to the Pocket 6K, we can see that wherever I'm aiming that green dot on my phone, it is now pulling focus on there. So let's see how well it does on me with this ridiculous rig. Whoop, see, cheap magic arm, not good. Is it pulling on me? Am I in focus? Did it work? But now I can also tell you why I use the magic arm to put it off to the side, and that's because similar to the LiDAR on the DJI, where people were mounting them on top, and then the LiDAR camera wasn't seeing the same thing compositionally as the actual lens of the camera, it made getting things in focus hard. And that was the same thing here. When the phone was mounted all the way up here, the green dot was like up here. And so if you had something that was relatively close and it was on the lower part of the screen, on my camera, it would be like dead center, but it would be below the green dot on the app. And unfortunately, unlike the DJI LiDAR where you can like set different focus points, this green dot you can't move. That'd be awesome if that could be a software update, but I have a feeling that's a limitation of the LiDAR track. Like this LiDAR is probably only focused on the middle part of the camera. So kind of is what it is. Again, we're super low budget here. We make things work. And so by putting the phone kind of off to the side and as close as possible to the lens, I'm seeing a more accurate representation of, oh, the green dot is a true representation of what's in the center frame on my camera, and it makes the, what is in focus more accurate for me. Now these yellow things on the side, basically you kind of just press and hold them if you want to pause the autofocus. So, every time I turn the camera here, it goes focus on the back. But let's say I wanted to focus on the camera in front of me, but then I want to pan without losing focus. And so I can just press and hold this, and now it's gonna lock that focus until I let go of it. And then as soon as I let go, it's gonna focus on whatever the green dot is on. And there's even this cool like show mesh option in the bottom. This was super nerdy because this is showing you in real time what the LiDAR is actually tracking. And so things that are in red are a lot closer, things in blue and white are further back, and it's just like, you can see it just scanning everything in the room. Janky setup. But yeah, this app, I love it because it basically has the two big features. You can manually focus, you can use the LiDAR focus, and it's totally free to download, and you can go through this entire setup process without having to pay anything. Like I said, the $12 to gain access to the main part of the app is when you're like, okay, this works, I'm happy with it, but now I want to record on the camera. So I guess it will not let you record on the camera and have the LiDAR going unless you pay. I think that's totally fair. You can download it, play around with it, calibrate your lenses, see if it's actually working and pulling focus on your camera, and then you can be like, not really cool enough, don't really want to spend the money. We're like, yeah, this is pretty cool, you know, spend the $12, no subscriptions or anything. So anyway, there you guys have it. Let me know if you have any questions down below. Would you use a rig like this, and what would you use it for? Because I mean, for me, obviously it'd be nice to have autofocus on my Pocket 6K for if I'm vlogging and stuff, but I gotta figure out a better way to connect this to the camera while still compositionally keeping it pretty good. So yeah, this is kind of a fun little test video. Let me know what you guys think, and see you in the next video. Just gonna leave this here.